Alright, hello! I'm doing this video earlier than most of my other videos. It's around 6:46 a.m. here. But I felt the Holy Spirit moving through me, and that made me want to make a video. So, I'm just going to go right through. The topic of today's video is like, what is good drawing? What does it mean to be good at drawing? What is our definition? What is our criteria for success here? So I wanted to go into a webcam, or not a webcam, but a screen capture, and go through some drawings. So the first stage, at beginner, what we're doing here, I think you guys can see this. Yeah, this should work. We have a figure, and it's okay, but the problem with this is that it's not properly describing the forms that we see. Everything has a hard edge around it, which isn't necessarily wrong, but it's not really a cartoon and it's not really realistic. It's kind of a middle ground. It doesn't really have a strong intent behind it. If it were going to be a cartoon, then I wouldn't expect to see this kind of shading on it. I would expect to see a more simplified version of shading, but it's kind of in this weird place where it's got this hard line feel, but also this trying to be realistic shading. The quality of the line doesn't describe the form as well as it could. You've got this really hard line all the way from here to here. It's not broken up at all. And you've also had the hem. Is that what you call it? The hem? The place where the shirt meets the dress or the skirt is just a straight line. It doesn't indicate the roundness or the thickness of the form of the around the waist or the hips. This arm doesn't feel particularly... I don't feel the anatomy in the forearm. I don't feel the bones at all in the anatomy. The ellipse here, just, it looks like a football shape. It doesn't curve up and over. It just kind of... It looks like this comes to like a point rather than a curving at the shoulder. It doesn't look terrible, but there's just some things that are off. I don't really see much indication of the legs here. Kind of, but I don't really know what's going on with the dress here. Like, I guess it's a double layer. It's confusing, though. And the hands are way too small. And there's also no clues as to where the head is, and I feel like I should see more of this hair down here somewhere, but it kind of just disappears. And you also get this weird tangent here as this line comes down into here. Here, where these three lines meet, you get this tangent. So there's a bunch of little things that make this drawing, I don't think, super successful. I think also these weird creases here that are just kind of hard lines. So that's kind of the beginner drawing phase, is that you're not really describing... Let me actually find an even more beginner drawing. That's actually not the worst thing I've ever seen, but you can find even more. That's actually an okay beginner drawing. It's just got a lot of room to improve. Let me find a newer student. Let's see. Let me just search like bad drawings. Okay. So something like this. At the very, very early stage, you don't have beautiful lines. This collar is not indicative of the form at all. There's a hard corner here. They've conceived of the neck more as a square shape rather than a cylinder. The fur is only indicated by this silhouette, and it's very even and just sloppy. These overlaps here, there's not a choice made. They didn't choose one line to have come out at this leg down here in the lower left corner. There's an equal case to be made for whether the leg is in front or behind, because the intersection is treated, there's not one line that's prioritized that comes out darker, which would indicate that it's over the other line, so it's unclear which form is in front of the other form. The eyes are just symbols. This isn't how an actual dog's eyes would look. This is just, the eyes are... they're just treated as flat shapes. The whiskers are just ideas of whiskers, which are just lines, rather than how whiskers actually look. The ears are just treated as a silhouette. There's no interior description of the form. So at this point, you're not even describing form. You're just working more with symbols. So that would be the first level. The second level is the one I showed before, which is this one. And then another level would be this, where you're working from a photo. And a lot of people would look at this and say this is good. It's certainly got some beautiful, beautiful things going on, but it's very much a copy of a photo. It gets very flat in the hair here. I don't really feel the thickness of this hair. It feels overly reliant on the rendering to make it work. If this weren't rendered, it wouldn't really be such a strong statement. I feel like this eye on the far side is a little bit too high. And it's okay. It's good. It's beautiful, right? It has a quality of beauty to it, but I would argue that it doesn't have a sense of life and purpose to it. There's no real intent here. It's just, hey, I drew a pretty girl and she's got pretty hair. But there's no deeper feeling to it. It doesn't ring true. There's no real feel of life to it. It's like, when I look at this drawing, all I see is a beautiful drawing. I don't see life. And then a really great drawing would be Michelangelo. And why would I say these are great? Because these are describing, like, they're less clean, right? This is super clean. These are less clean, right? The nipple's been moved. The arm's been redrawn. Lines ghost in and out. It's not complete, but I would say this is a much more beautiful drawing because it's exploring. There's thought behind it. There's intent. There's purpose. There's action. There's gesture. There's life. It's like, it's describing the form very well. There's so much information in these forms, the way he's describing it. There's a ton of information. Every line has a purpose to describing the form. And he just kind of captures the essence of the pose. We feel this figure in space. We feel the twist of the pose. We feel the action of it. We know exactly where this head is looking. We know how this arm is tracking. We can feel the tension in the arm. We can feel which muscles are active. So I would say these drawings capture a quality of life that intermediate drawings don't. Like this portrait compared to this one. This one has no life to it. I feel like it's just a copy of a photo. This one feels like it's expressive. This figure is looking somewhere and she feels something. And it moves the eye around. This one, the eye is just static, and there's no priority given to any parts of the hair. It's all just equally considered. But this one prioritizes things. He just lets it fade away towards the bottom. He doesn't render this as much. He has a focal point. So the main difference I see in these is it moves the eye around in an interesting way. It moves your eye. There's a sense of flow. And it's not forced. It feels very natural and flowy and gestural. Even though he doesn't render everything out. And the rendering he does do contributes to the forms that he's drawing. That every stroke adds new information. So that, I would say, is the main difference between good drawing and bad drawing. There's expressiveness in good drawing. And that's what takes it to the next level. What are you expressing? What's your intent? Where do you want the viewer to look? What action are you communicating? Look at this. Everything is contributing to that one idea. So you have the central idea, and then every mark you make helps describe the forms, and the forms are all building towards that same idea. It's like the difference between a pile of sticks and organizing those sticks in such a way that you build a house. So it's just, it's an understanding of form that, look at this understanding of form, right? Now, even though the proportions on this are wonky with this head, right? Even though this head is really weird on this one, it's still a great drawing because it has that action to it. And this is not something you would see in a photo. It's more exaggerated. It's not stiff, it's watery, it's fluid, right? There's a flow to it. We can feel the three-dimensional nature of these forms. The lighting helps describe these forms. Look at how he uses the lighting. He doesn't just draw the, right? Something like this just copies, right? This is just copying the lighting. It's like, I see in the photo that it's light here, and it's a soft edge here, and then it's dark here. Right? It's just copying the tones. It's not understanding. This is just copying a photo. Copying a photo, not understanding the forms. This one, he could light this figure from any angle because he understood how light worked and how 3D form works. So you understand the lighting and you're analyzing the pose. That's another big difference. This one doesn't analyze. Well, correction, it analyzes the photo, right? An intermediate artist might analyze the photo. You can analyze, oh, this shape should be bigger, right? And you've done a good job of analyzing a photograph and breaking it down into forms that you can recreate. But you're not analyzing the 3D forms, and that's what one of these great artists would do, is they analyze instead of copying. So you analyze these forms so that you can understand them, and then when you understand them, you can create them from memory, because you understand that this is just a simplified tube, and then with some egg-shaped muscles built on top. But if you can only copy from a photo, all you're ever going to be able to do is copy from a photo. But until you understand 3D forms, you won't be able to draw out of your imagination. So yeah, analyze, don't copy. And that's where I'm going to end it. So let me go to, oops, open the wrong thing. So I hope that was helpful. That's just, I'm sort of thinking about, one thing I want to mention, also design. Design would be, what's the difference between draftsmanship and design? Design is the beauty of it, right? Design would be the composition, the layout. What shapes are you using? Draftsmanship is like the ability to describe a spherical form or a box shape and have it read convincingly. It's the ability to work on texture, right? Can you communicate the difference between fur, scales, metal surfaces? Can you do that? How do you do that? What are your tools? Do you indicate that well? Do you indicate that clearly? And then design would be utilizing those tools that you've acquired with draftsmanship to make something beautiful. For example, it's not just drawing something accurately and beautifully. Design is also putting those parts together, right? So not just drawing. So let's see. Well, no, that'll be a different video. But design will be creating things that are interesting. Thinking about what environment a creature lives in. If you're designing a creature, what environment does it live in? What kind of claws does it have? Does it have digging claws or meat-eater claws for scratching? Does it have hands that climb? Does it have really strong forearms? Does it have a low brow? Does it have horns? What type of horns does it have? Are they curved horns? Are they antlers? Is it a unicorn? What kind of teeth does it have? Does it have sharp teeth for chewing, or does it have flat teeth for grinding like an herbivore? Does it have long fur, short fur, scales, or skin? Does it have a shell? Does it have an exoskeleton? How many limbs does it have? These are all design considerations, which are, how does this creature live in the world and interact, and is it believable? And then draftsmanship is the ability to render those things. So you've decided that the creature has claws like a sloth for hanging, right? But if you don't have the draftsmanship to be able to draw claws like that, and they end up looking like this, and they end up looking sharp, then that's a problem in your draftsmanship, not your design. So your draftsmanship needs to be able to keep up with your design. And your design also needs to, because if you don't have design, you're just going to be drawing boring stuff. You won't be able to draw interesting stuff that's new. And if you don't have draftsmanship, you won't be able to properly render your designs. You won't be able to bring your designs to fruition. They'll just exist in your head. So that's sort of the difference. Those are just some thoughts I'm thinking about on this Sunday morning at 7 o'clock a.m. I'm going to be going to Boston tomorrow. I'm going to be flying up and going there for the week to visit my cousin and to see the the History of Fantasy exhibition at the Norman Rockwell Museum up in Stockton, Massachusetts. Yeah, Stockton, Massachusetts, I believe. Norman Rockwell Museum. And so that's going to be the Enchanted exhibition at the Norman Rockwell Museum. So I'm excited about that. Nervous because I don't really travel a lot. So this is a new experience for me and I'm facing my fears. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm looking forward to it. So with that said, good luck, take care, have a good week, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.